All right, I'm just going to start this video. Hello, students of Classics 120, English words from Latin and Greek. I'm pretty sure that's what this course is still called. Um, my name is Courtney Murray. I am here today to walk you through this asynchronous course that we are taking together in spring of 2026. But for some reason, I've just had one of those days. I've been recording a lot of intro videos over the past few weeks. And I have completely lost my touch in terms of starting off a video. I'm way in my head about it. So, hello. Thank you for being here. I promise it will not be this awkward every single time. But I'm glad you're here. This is meant to be a relatively short lecture, though it will be longer than I know most students like, just to go over what the course is, what the syllabus tells you, and how the Canvas page works. I taught this course last year and I was very, very nervous about the format of it, but I think it worked pretty well. So I'm a little more confident about how it works. But we'll see how it goes. Every year is a new year. Every student is different. So come along with me, won't you, as we go on this journey? So, yes, this is the syllabus. You will be able to find it in multiple places on the Canvas page. This course, English words from Latin and Greek, we've been just kind of messing around with the title a little bit. I think it may have a Latin and Greek roots for STEM and law majors now or something like this. They're the same course, just different title. Basically, this is a vocabulary course. In this course, we are going to be learning a bunch of Greek and Latin words, including just straight up words that mean things, but also suffixes and prefixes, and see how they work in English. That is what this course is. It's nothing more complicated than that. But it's also, of course, just a world of information, like so many things to talk about. So on the one hand, it's very simple, but the course material is very complex and interesting, and I think it'll be great. I really enjoy teaching this stuff, and I'm hoping that you will enjoy learning it. So, a little bit more about me. Here is my name, Courtney Murray, and my pronouns. Here's my email address. I am pretty good, I would say pretty good about responding to emails. I just have this thing where every once in a while, especially during kind of exam times, so weeks 5 and 10 in particular, where my inbox gets flooded. And so I can occasionally miss an email. So if you ever think that I should have responded to you, if you reached out about something important and you're wondering why I haven't responded, please feel free to touch base with me again. That never bothers me. I have no email pride. I have no dignity, so it's completely all right. Yeah, so that's my contact information. And here is my office. So I'm generally on campus on both Tuesdays and Thursdays. I know this is an asynchronous class, but I encourage you to come to my synchronous office hours and talk to me about how things are going or just to hang out. I am a big talker. I love to find out what my students like to talk about. It keeps me young. So please come. My office hours in general are on Thursdays at 4 p.m. They are in Arts and Letters, which is this kind of big new building. Well, it's not really that new anymore, but it's relatively new compared to me. It's new, and it is on I always forget this, east, no, sorry, northwest side of campus. It's like it runs parallel to the 8 freeway. You can't miss it. And I'm on the 6th floor. There's also a lovely patio up there if you're looking for a place to study or just get some sun. It's very nice. So I'm always there on Thursdays at 4, but I tend to also be there on Tuesdays. And so my point is, if you would like to meet outside my office hours on a Tuesday or Thursday, I have availability. So don't hesitate to reach out. But also, I can do Zooms. Like I'm recording this through Zoom right now, so I don't know if that's apparent. So if you would like to meet on a Monday, Wednesday, Friday, we could always set up a Zoom as well. So I strongly encourage office hours. If we don't get to spend any time together in person, office hours is a nice way to kind of rectify that for a little more of a, human experience. So that is all my information. And then here is the course overview, in which I basically talk about my obsession with words, why having a bigger vocabulary is really useful, not only if you're planning on becoming a doctor or a lawyer, but if you want to be anything, having a bigger vocabulary and being able to deduce the meaning of words is it's a gift. It's a gift you're giving yourself. So it truly is something that it's a skill that you can apply in every area of your life. And this was, of course, most aptly explained by a woman who's been dead for a long time, Joan Didion, who is amazing, but we won't be talking about her at all. If you would like to talk to me about Joan Didion, I have many thoughts, and we could do that during office hours, you know? So that's what we're doing. We're learning vocabulary. Most of but in learning these words, mostly in lecture, we will be talking about things like history, philosophy, pop culture, not so much. I wish it was more pop culture, colonial, colonialism. I think I got a little bit crazy. Definitely history and philosophy and other fields, as we learn these new words, just to explain how the words are working and how they changed. I actually was just having this conversation about the word cardinal. So here's an example. Like this is the sort of thing I will talk about and we'll be learning about in class. There's this word cardinal, right? And I mean, this is a large class. So I say the word cardinal, and I'm thinking that many of us are thinking in various different ways, right? You could think of the cardinal directions. You could think of the cardinal baseball team. You could think of the cardinal color red or whatever. So I actually just learned recently that the reason the baseball team is called the Cardinals is because once upon a time in ancient Rome, there was this word cardo, cardinis. It's a Latin word, so it has different forms for whatever it's doing in the sentence, which we will be learning. And in Latin, the word cardo means hinge, like the hinge that your door uses. And so for the Romans, they realized that a hinge is incredibly important. Whole different story. The Romans were obsessed with doors. They loved doors. They were like magical to the Romans. So of course, the thing that a door swings on would also be considered very important. So the word for hinge was adopted by the Romans to mean something incredibly important. That ultimately was picked up by the Catholic Church, which of course had its roots in Rome. And so the most important kind of priests, I think it's priests, th those closest to the Pope, they were called the cardinals because they were the most important. Those priests came to wear these very distinctive red uniforms, these like red robes. I'm sure you've seen them if you watched that movie that came out a couple years ago, about the election of the Pope. The red robes were very prominent. And if you're at all curious, that red is because of the blood of Jesus. But so they wore these red robes. So then a few thousand, hundreds of years later, some guy came around and he was naming birds. And so he named the cardinal after the red robe of because cardinals are red, just like those red robes. So now we have this red bird. And then hundreds of years after that, someone comes along to name baseball teams. And one of the baseball teams is named after the red bird, which is named after the priest, which is named after a door hinge. And so now you'll never forget, right? So that's kind of how this class works. Um, Most of the times it's a little more direct than that, but that's the sort of work that we're going to be doing. Um, and so you can imagine, or can you imagine? Let us pause for a moment and think about if this were a synchronous class and we had to go sit in a lecture hall every day and I would just tell you interesting facts about words. It would not be great. Like, I think it would be fine for the first 5 to 7 weeks, but after that, you'd probably get very tired of hearing about it. So that's why this course really lends itself to an asynchronous modality, because we can get a little creative in how we are approaching this topic. So as a result, each of the modules of this course, there's 4 modules. 2 of the modules are going to focus on Latin, I'm sorry, yeah, that's right, Latin words, Latin words that we use in English. The third module, and I will say this unabashedly, is the absolute best one, and that's because we focus on the good Greek words that we use in English. And then the fourth module is also on Greek words, but there's more of an emphasis on science words. So that's it. Those are the 4 modules, and we're going to look at how they play out in the Canvas page. But they are all structured exactly the same. So basically, you're going to be doing exactly the same work 4 times but the content of the work is going to be different. So it's one thing 4 times with different words. So hopefully you will be able to find a way to structure that in such a way that it is not too tedious, that you will find the way to kind of absorb the material and become familiar with the material in a way that works for you. And that is the joy, that is the gift of an asynchronous course. So we'll get into more of those details as we look at the Canvas page, but that is what our course description is telling us. So, for student learning outcomes, really this first one is the most important. This is a course that is meant to help you develop a bigger vocabulary. There's nothing more highfalutin than that. These other things will happen. In the very first module, we're going to talk about the history and the development of the English language. So that it will answer the question, why are there so many Greek and Latin words in English? And I think it's a really interesting story. There could be really a whole class about that, but it's kind of shoved into the first module and you will learn it and it will be great. We are also going to not just be learning words, but we'll be learning prefixes and suffixes of words. So if you have a word, say like photosynthesis, that word is made up of a prefix, photo, and then another prefix, syn, and then the actual word, thesis. So what we'll be doing is we'll be learning all three of those parts in distinction from one another. So we'll learn what photo means, and we'll learn what syn means, and we'll learn what thesis means. And then we will have the opportunity to combine those parts. But it's the idea of by learning those parts individually, you can surmise what they all mean when they're together. So by learning, instead of just learning one word, by learning three words, you're really learning nine words. Now we're getting into math, but that's kind of the idea of a lot of what we are doing. We're also going to read through some dictionary entries. That's something I think for some of us, I think that's a really fun thing to do is analyze dictionary entries. And I'm saying this knowing that 2 weeks ago, like very, very recently, I read an article in the New Yorker that was like, no one's ever going to use dictionaries again. Like we're in a post-dictionary world. But I just don't think that's true. If you ever want to talk about it, I think that dictionaries are obviously different than they were when I was a child, but that there's still a use for dictionaries. And hopefully, by learning how to use some of the amazing dictionary tools at your disposal, you will become convinced of the necessity of dictionaries. But we will talk about it. So, yes, that's kind of where we're going. If we go further on in the syllabus, you have all your essential student information. A lot of this is kind of boilerplate information that I'm sure that you're familiar with, that you've seen a million times. The one thing, a couple of things I want to call your attention to. First of all, this is an asynchronous course, which means that it's just basically done on a computer or a phone or a tablet. Um, I would strongly discourage relying solely on your cell phone to complete this course. I think it is absolutely fine to do the readings and watch the videos, to do all that on whatever tool you have at your disposal. And as I just said in another lecture, the smaller the little my face is on a screen, the happier that I am. So go ahead, use your cell phone for that. But for taking the exams, I think it's really helpful and just makes it easier for you to have a bigger machine because the exams, though many of them will have, though they all will have a huge multiple choice component, there will be sort of essay elements of the exam. And so typing into a small phone um, could be detrimental. So if you don't have a big computer machine, I don't know why I'm calling them that. I grew up with computers, I'm not that old. But if you don't have a larger sort of keyboard situation to work with, you can go here to find where on campus you can find a computer to use. And then the online etiquette thing, this isn't so important for this particular class, not because they don't want you to be nice to each other online, but because there is no discussion component of this course. So, but if there ever were, if there's any situation, I really like what SDSU has to say about netiquette. Its first line is basically, remember that we are people. So I think that's a nice read just in general for life. Yeah, and then there's this paragraph about staying on track. So this is something that um, I am a little bit less concerned about for this class, just because there's so many ways to catch up. But so the idea of this paragraph, an asynchronous class is not meant to be shorter, quicker version of an in-person class. It's just the idea that this class does require like consistent work. Um, There are a lot of quizzes in this course, and it is very easy to fall behind. And it's very easy to just, I mean, I will confess that last year when I taught this course, there was 2 weeks, I think it was weeks 11 and 12, that I completely forgot to do anything for this course. Like all I had to do was email, but I completely forgot. So I understand that that happens. We live in a crazy, hectic world and with competing priorities. So I will be sending out weekly emails, and I'm not going to forget this year. But it's very easy just to forget, and I understand that. So I will try to keep you on course as much as I can. There's consistent due dates, this sort of thing. But if you do ever find yourself in a situation where you feel like you're in a hole, or let's say, worst case scenario, you forgot that there was an exam, please don't ever feel like you can't reach out and talk to me about it. Every problem has a solution. And I don't want you to ever get into a place where you're like, I'm too embarrassed or I've messed it up. There's nothing I can do. Um, there is something we can do. So if you find yourself lost, if you find yourself way behind, if you found that you missed something, then the deadline has passed, just reach out to me and we will talk about it and we will find a solution. So yes, I just wanted to make sure to say that. That being said, I do email and I will email once a week. I also email quite a bit before the exams. So it's really important that you check your email so you can see those missives. And also, and this just happens every single semester, and it's not a big deal, but usually every semester on every exam, one or two students will do something wrong that just screws up the exam. So they'll forget to include information, or they will copy the wrong information, or it will be in a text that I can't read. So if that happens, I will reach out to you and say, can you resubmit the exam, having made these corrections? If you're not checking your email, you will never see my plaintive request. And then I can't give you the points that I want to give you. I cannot tell you how many times I've reached out to a student and said, I want to give you a better grade than I currently can. And I just never heard back from those students. And so they didn't get the grade that I thought that they deserved. They got the grade that this mistake dictated. So check your email, is all I'm saying. Yeah. So yes, so that is all there. And then Canvas, if you need Canvas information, there's many resources. SDSU has many things to. If you reach out to me for help with Canvas, I will just direct you to the SDSU resources. So yeah, so that's there for you. Okay. All right. So moving on to the required textbook. So there's only one book required for this course, and it's this guy. I have it right here. It is very majestic. Studies in Etymology by the estimable Charles W. Dunmore and Rita M. Fletcher. It is available to you through day one. So if you guys use that, which I don't get how that works, but it seems to be fine for most people, it should be available, should be in the bookstore. I'm assuming it's also just available all over the place from online sellers. I'm not going to discourage you from using the online source. I think it's totally okay. The only reason, if you're at all leaning towards buying the physical book rather than the online thing, the advantage of the physical book is the glossary. So a lot of this work that we're going to be doing in this course is looking up things. So I'll ask you what this suffix means, what this prefix means. And if you can just flip through the glossary, for some of us, that's much easier than kind of, scrolling. Like for some reason, I use the Kindle a lot of the time, and the scrolling feature, sometimes it just goes in the wrong direction. It's very strange. But I know that you are young, smart people who probably have skills that I can scarcely fathom. So if you are very comfortable with using an online book, that's great. But if for whatever reason you're not, I think the physical text is good, is preferable, and I think it's relatively inexpensive. I want to say it's like $30. So, but things are expensive, so I understand either way. Yeah. Okay. So that's the text, and that's all. That's all. I will not ever ask you for anything else. All right. So let's talk about this part, the major assignments and assessments. Now, so here's the thing. This course has 16 quizzes. 16 quizzes. There are more quizzes than there are weeks in the course. And I feel very nervous saying that because it seems like a lot, but they are And they're 50% of your grade. So it's not just like I'm throwing 16 quizzes at you. The reason there's 16 quizzes is because this course is a vocabulary course. So much of the work, much of the learning is done just by quizzing yourself on all of the words that we're learning. So I like to think of those quizzes kind of as flashcards. In the same way as if you were learning a different language, you would use a flashcard to consistently review the words that you're learning. That's what those quizzes are meant to do. The other thing is that they're pretty short. I think each quiz has a 10-minute limit, and there's maybe 5 to 10 questions in each quiz, and you can take them as many times as you want. So though there are a lot, you are in complete control of what grade you receive on those quizzes. You can take them as many times as you want to get the grade that you want. And also, and the way it breaks down is there's 4 quizzes per module, but they're all kind of the same structure. And we're going to see that in the Canvas. So though it's a lot, by the end of the semester, you will be incredibly good at them because you'll just have done so many of them. And also, you will have your lowest score dropped. So if you miss one, it won't count against you. If you do terribly on one and never want to do it again, it won't count against you. So 16 quizzes, the lowest score will be dropped. Then there are 4 exams. And so you can take the quizzes as many times as you want, but they are time limited. For the 4 exams, you will have 3 hours to take them, which I think is a generous time period, but you can only take them once. They are open book, open note, and they cover the module that they're associated with. They're cumulative in the sense of they're cumulative of the module material, but they are not, well, I guess they are kind of cumulative towards the end, but only in one specific section. And let's talk about that when we get there. But the thing is the majority of the material for the exams is just pulled from the quizzes. So if you've taken the quizzes multiple times, you will be very prepared for the exam. Um, Yes, and so we will talk about that. And before the exam comes out in 4 weeks, you will have an example of what the exam looks like. You will know everything. You will feel totally, totally comfortable. And if you don't feel comfortable, come talk to me about it. And we will make sure you feel comfortable before you start the exams. So there's 4 of them, but you can drop your lowest exam score. The nice thing is when I taught this course last year, there was 4 exams and each exam like fell on a holiday for some reason. Like one fell on Valentine's Day, one fell on St. Patrick's Day, one fell on Easter. Like it was just very poorly poorly arranged. This semester, that is not an issue. There's no holidays corresponding to our exams. But so yeah, but the thing is the lowest exam is dropped. So let's say in the middle of the quarter something's going on, you're just not feeling it, you're not up for it, and you either don't take the exam or you do terribly on the exam. That'll be your dropped grade, right? The way this worked last year, and I fully anticipate it will happen again this year, is that you will do very well on the first 3 exams because you're great SDSU students and you know how to do well on an exam. Um, and then you just won't take the last exam because that would be your lowest exam and you wouldn't need to take it. So we can talk about that as that kind of rolls out, but just keep that in mind. You have some flexibility and there is some room for mistake, some room for error. So, yes. Yeah, and so here, the only thing that really has kind of a strict time limit is the exams. Everything else is very flexible. But the exams will typically open on a Tuesday or a Wednesday, and they will close on a Sunday night. The reason I have to be kind of strict about that is just for grading load and for consideration of other students. Um, I can't allow for late exams simply because it wouldn't be fair to everybody. And I think this semester, I have something like 300 students. So it's just a lot of grading. So that is why. That being said, let's say the worst case scenario happens and you miss an exam or you're late a day, just reach out to me and it's okay. It'll be fine. The other thing I want to mention, I just thought this was such an interesting thing that happened. I think it happened in October of 2025, where Canvas went down at approximately like 10 p.m. on a Sunday and didn't come back up until much later on a Monday afternoon. And I just remember so many students being so panicked about that and feeling responsible, like they had to be on alert until Canvas came back online to turn in their exam. If for some reason Canvas goes down when you were planning on turning in the exam, that's not your fault. That's Canvas's fault. And then we will have a grace period and it will be fine. So please don't let that ever For my class at least, don't let that be a concern. If Canvas goes down at 10 p.m. on the Sunday that an exam is due, I guarantee you I will extend that deadline. So that's not your fault. And please don't worry about it. All right. So here we go. Yep. So pretty simple grading structure in this class. Best 3 out of 4 exams is 50% of your grade. Best 15 out of 16 quizzes is 50% of your grade. No more complicated than that. And here's a pretty standard grading structure. Yes. Okay. So last thing on the syllabus, here is our course schedule. You'll notice it's very simple looking because this is a relatively straightforward course. For the first week, you can just take your time getting used to the course. You're obviously watching this video, read through the syllabus. You can take a sample exam. If you take the sample exam, you could get some extra credit. But for the most part, we're going to use these 4 modules. And each module takes about 4 weeks. So module 1 goes from January 20th to February 12th. So the first 4 weeks of classes. Module 2, February 16th to March 11th. So second 4 week of classes. The way I imagine it happening, like my ideal kind of pacing on this course, is you will spend the first 2 weeks of the modules completing the readings, which are from our textbook, typically about 4 chapters, watching the lectures that correspond to those readings. That's the first 2 weeks. So you'll be kind of imbibing the material during those 2 weeks. And then you spend the second 2 weeks going through the quizzes. And like I said, every module, there's 4 quizzes. You can take them as many times as you want. The thing about the quizzes is though they are numbered sequentially, they cover all of each quiz covers all of the material. So quiz 1 covers a specific element of the introduction in chapters 1 through 3. Quiz 2 covers a different element of the introduction in chapters 1 through 3. So it doesn't help you at all to like read the introduction and then take quiz 1. You have to have the information from all of the chapters before you take quiz 1. That's kind of the theory behind it. Now, of course, if you want to read the introduction and then take quiz 1, go for it, right? Like you could totally read a chapter, take a quiz, read a chapter, take a quiz, and then just keep taking the quizzes as you accumulate more information, right? That's totally fine. Whatever system works for you. If you are confounded, if you start doing this and you're like, I can't figure this out, I don't know what's happening, reach out to me and we can develop a strategy together. But for the most part, you're not going to screw anything up by taking a quiz too early. So just figure out a system that works for you. And then at the end of the module, I will post exam 1. And so February 12th, I think, is a Wednesday. And then it will be due on February 15th, which is a Sunday. Oh, I guess it is Valentine's Day weekend. Um, so sorry. But you can take it as early as February 12th and then go have an amazing Valentine's Day if that's your jam. Yes, and we will talk about that more. So that's the basic structure, and that just repeats, rinse and repeat for modules 2, 3, and 4. And we go through all of the chapters of our book. Our last module, there's only 3 chapters, so it's a little bit lighter on material. And then at the very end of the semester, I just don't know what the due date for the final exam is going to be, but I'm assuming it'll be, I'm assuming as if I have no choice. It will absolutely be within a reasonable amount of time. It will not be like some quick turnaround. Okay, so that's that. Here's our university policies. So if you need this information, it is here for you. And yeah, academic honesty, very important, an important thing to take seriously. Yeah, yes, I think that's, you guys get it. We're living in the world of AI fear. So there you go. Okay, so there's the syllabus. Now let us turn to the Canvas page. I always feel like, should I say something about AI? I can tell you that last year, when people took this course, I don't think this is a course that really lends itself to AI. Every exam is going to ask you for a bit of original work. In particular, for every exam, I will ask you to create a unique word. And I think that would be one place that people would turn to ChatGPT. And I think a few times I absolutely did see that. Um, you're really not to be like weird, but like it's meant to be a fun a fun exercise. It's not meant to be like some burdensome thing. But also, and this is the same for literally any class I ever teach with Latin and Greek, AI is really bad at Latin and Greek. It just has a very hard time working with it and distinguishing it. And it just has, I think, almost too much information to do a good job with it. So students who used either AI or some sort of, I don't know, other helper, they wouldn't do as well on that particular section of the exam because they weren't using the material correctly. And so it just doesn't work in the way that it's supposed to work. So, but again, it's supposed to be, anyhow, it's supposed to be fun. I hate when I say that because it's just like, old lady says something is fun, but anyhow, we'll figure it out. And if there's ever a time where you are using some sort of AI tool and it's really helping you in a way that I am not helping you, I would be really curious and I would welcome that kind of feedback. Like the book isn't explaining this, and so I had to turn to a tool. Um, Please let me know, like, because I'm always curious as to how people are using the tools that are available to them. But so just so you know, I have a TA. I don't know if we can see her yet. Yeah, there she is. This is Audrey. Um, she hates AI. No, she's fine. She just wants to sit on my lap. So I'll see if I can move this computer. All right, so here we are. Enough babbling. I just want to give you the feeling of what it'd be like to be in a classroom with me. Just so much digression. So, Canvas page. Here's our home page. We actually don't use this for very much, but it has all of the information you need to reach out to me if you would like to. And then it just gives you, that's the tail, that's her tail. It gives you resources to find the syllabus and this sort of thing. So that's the home page. But actually, you know what I'm going to do? I want to look at the student view because my view is a little bit different than yours. So let's see what happens. Homepage looks the same. So most of the work in this class, if not all, is going to be done in the modules. So here's your book if you would like to use it, day one ready. And so here's the introductory module with the course overview, this particular lecture. So here, if you would love to know more about my history, there is an amazing paragraph here. And again, my office hours and that sort of information. Here's the syllabus again. Here is the about the exam. So again, I will be explaining specifically what's going to be on the exams closer to the time of the exams. But if you would like to remind yourself of that fact, um, it is here. And then we're going to look at that sample exam in just a second. So what else is here? Ah, yes. So here is the Oxford English Dictionary. It is a resource that SDSU provides to you for free. And this is just one of my favorite things in the entire world. So when I was your age, the internet was young and digital books were not a thing. So if someone wanted to go consult the Oxford English Dictionary, which is the best dictionary of all time, you had to actually go to the library. And the Oxford English Dictionary was approximately like a full shelf. You can't see my hands, but so imagine those stretching out very far of huge books with every single word you could possibly imagine. So we now can use this online resource for free and look up any word you've ever wanted to look up. So what happens when you look up a word, it'll first pop you into the meaning of the word or the possible meanings. So let's say we wanted to look at the Catholic Church one. You click on that link and it'll take you to the dictionary entry, the meaning and the use. It'll always include quotes from the different time periods in which it was used. So this is a very old word, so it goes back to Old English. I actually think this is Middle English, all the way up into contemporary usage, so all the way up until 2015. So for a lot of us, that itself might be really interesting. The place we're going to be using it in this course is this etymology tab. So etymology is this, how what the word is made out of, where it came from. And so as you can see here, this is what I told you, that originally it was post-classical Latin, which itself came from classical Latin, from this noun, etc. And I think if we came here and looked at that etymology, yeah, so it will say, there we go. There's that cardo that I was talking about. So in one of my lectures, I go through this. There's going to be a couple of exam questions that will ask you to analyze a dictionary entry. And so I think, I mean, I obviously think that's really interesting. I hope you think it's interesting as well. But most importantly, for right now, for this lecture that has already gone on way too long, here is the link to it. And so you can just pop on and it's there for you. So here is the syllabus quiz. Now, normally, or I used to say that please take the syllabus quiz so I know that you're enrolled in the course and I don't have to kick you out. But I realized I never do that. So this is for extra credit if you would like to do it. It also will show you kind of what an exam would look like. So, like all our exams, it is timed, though our exams will be 3 hours rather than 30 minutes. Every exam will have some multiple choice questions. As you can see here, a collection. Every exam will also have fill in the blank sections. This is actually kind of, you will see this on a quiz too. So if you haven't taken an exam with multiple fill in the blanks, it might be helpful to practice that. And yeah, so I wanted to give you that opportunity. And then the final exams will also include an essay component where you just, you know, type stuff in, right? So that's it. So now you don't even have to take it if you don't want to. You know what it looks like, and then you can submit. All right. So that's our introductory module. You are welcome to complete all of those things or none of those things. Sorry, we just had a child yelling outside. Oh, and so look, I already have a grade. That's exciting. Okay, but then after the introductory module, you will have module one. Now, there's only one here. I will post module two after the first exam. I will post module three after the second exam, etc. But every module is going to look exactly the same. So it will start with a module overview, which will tell you what the focus of this particular module is. So module one will talk about the history of English, and we will start to learn some of the Latin stuff. And I say this multiple times in lectures, so I'm not going to say it too much now to exhaust you. But the nature of this course is kind of the nature of the words that are chosen for this course is kind of arbitrary. Before I started creating this course, I looked at, five or six books about word power and this sort of thing, and every single one kind of it's the words they chose were just kind of whatever the editor thought were interesting, right? And so I tried to find the book that I thought was most interesting to everybody. But sometimes the word choices are a little bit like, I'm not sure why this is valuable, but you know, I mean, in the fullness of time, isn't every word valuable? But in module one in particular, some of the word choices were a little bit weird, but I think they were fine. So that's the module overview. And you can just read that, nothing too crazy. The most important stuff, of course, is the readings. So pretty simple for this course. We're just going through the textbook in order. So for module one, we're reading the introduction and lessons 1 through 3. And then each of the video lectures will correspond to those topics. So these are all YouTube links. I am hoping you will not see ads because I totally ignored the advice about how to get rid of ads. So I'm hoping that won't be too terrible. But so as you can see, each chapter has about 3 lectures, and it's because they're short. So like hopefully lecture one is 20 minutes, lecture two is 20 minutes. That was my goal. And then there's the lecture slides. These slides cover all 3 of the lectures that they're under. So one set of slides for the 3 lectures. And then so here we have introduction, chapters 1, 2, and 3. This will be exactly the same for every other module. We'll just proceed through the book. And yeah, so those are our resources. You will find them in every module. And then here are where all the quizzes will be. 1, 2, 3, 4. So each module will have a miscellanea quiz, which is basically just about random stuff, like theory stuff or whatever that was covered in the lectures. Then the second quiz is stems, roots, prefixes, and suffixes. So this is basically a quiz on the little word parts that we learned in the chapters that we are covering. And let me tell you, this is, and this is my fault, but I think it's also the book's fault. So let's take a word, for example. Let's take photosynthesis again. That word consists of photo, syn, and thesis. So the word thesis in particular is considered a stem slash root. So I think that our book calls the word thesis a stem, and I think I call it a root, but it could be vice versa because it's completely arbitrary, right? It's just like a plant metaphor. Um, So a stem and a root is the same thing. A prefix is the part of the word that has kind of no real meaning by itself, but you put in front of a stem or a root, and then a suffix is something you put behind a stem or a root. So what this quiz does is you can, oh, I guess this is a real quiz. Um, that's fine. So what it does is it asks you what does the prefix mean? What does circum or circum, however you want to pronounce it, mean? And you would type in your answer here. I think this is what it means. What does the root grawa or grav mean? And you would just put whatever you thought that it meant that you knew from the book. Now, this can be a little bit pedantic. I had to take all of the definitions from the book. So let's say that the root arid, and you're just like, oh, well, I know that the word arid means hot. But in the book, it doesn't mean hot, it means dry. And so, though in some parts of the world it can just mean hot, arid definitely can mean hot. In this particular class, according to the book, it means dry. So, dry is the only correct answer. So it can be a little bit annoying, but that's why you take the quiz over and over again until you get the score that you want. So 10 questions, and then you submit the quiz, and you're on your way. So that's what quiz two looks like. And let's see if I can just hit back, or the stems roots quiz looks like. We're not going to do this for every quiz. You're going to be able to like experience it on your own. So word analysis is this is a longer kind of quiz because I'm asking you to break down each individual word into a suffix and a prefix and a root. So you get extra points, but you also get some extra time. And then vocabulary. Now for this quiz, I ask you, what does this word literally mean, like according to its roots? So let us take a word. I'm looking around for a word. Um, uh, does this make sense? Let's take, no, I can't think of a word. Oh, you know what? Let's just look at the quiz so you can see what I am babbling about. I'm like, power. So, what is the most literal translation of brevity? Now, if you were to type into Google the word brevity, you would find like 5 to 7 different meanings. For this exam, there's only one right answer, and it is the right answer that the book talks about. And so here, I do believe, oh, I actually don't even remember what this is. But I think brewa is short and the iti means condition of. So I think it's condition of shortness rather than concise. Concise is another way of saying brevity, but brevity itself, literally, when relying on the roots, means condition of shortness. If we look at number two, hopefully I will do it better. Yes, which one of the following is the most literal translation of sedentary? So sedens means sitting, and airy is a prefix meaning characterized by. So this means characterized by sitting, even though someone who is sedentary is unmoving. Someone who is sedentary is not standing, but the literal translation of sedentary is characterized by sitting. I felt, why did I say, oh, and so, yeah, so sorry. Some of these I just got a little bit goofy on. Sometimes they feel a little arbitrary and silly, and please know I know that, and I apologize for it. It was just the only way I could think of to kind of get to those roots. So that's why that's like that. Okay, so there we go. So I think that's it. You'll have your reading, your videos, and then all your quizzes, and that's all you have to do for the first module. And then at the very end, I will post the exam. I'll give you the details here. I'm going to post those for you closer to the exam date, and the exam will be posted here. One last thing, every module will have additional but optional resources. So I'm a big podcast listener. I'm a big consumer of random time sync media. And so if there are things that I think just would be interesting to you, I will put them here. You are under no obligation to look at them, to think about them, to talk about them. They are just there in case you are that student who's like, man, I really wish I could hear spoken examples of Old and Middle English. Here it is for you. If there is something that you know about that you would like to include on this page, please let me know. I would love to see that. So, okay, so I think that it's been 3 days since I started this video. It's probably time to give you a break and let you go do your other school stuff. But thank you for coming on this journey with me. Please let me know if, first of all, most importantly, if a link doesn't work or something isn't working correctly, please don't hesitate to let me know. I, believe it or not, I make mistakes, especially with links and things. So it is a huge relief to me when someone points it out to me and doesn't just let it sit there. But otherwise, if you have questions, concerns, please come talk to me. And I look forward to seeing your work. So, okay, good luck with everything, and I will hopefully see you soon, or otherwise I'll be seeing your exams in about a month. So, so good luck, and thank you again for staying till the end.